On Thanksgiving Day, my daughter said to me, "The best gift would be for you to disappear." So that's what I did. I paid off their mortgage, took everything they considered theirs, and flew to Hawaii. But what I left on her desk destroyed them forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I reached into my jacket pocket, feeling the envelope's edge, still believing that night would end with gratitude. The dining room felt warm. Too warm, maybe. The fireplace crackled behind me, throwing orange light across the table where my family sat finishing their Thanksgiving dinner. Through the window, snow fell on Oak Park in thick, lazy flakes. Inside, the chandelier cast everything in soft yellow, making the scene look like something from a holiday card. Maria's photo watched from the mantel, her smile frozen in better times. I stood, pushing back from the table with more effort than I remembered needing. 65 felt heavier these days. "Fern, honey," my voice came out hopeful. Too hopeful. "I got something for you. Happy Thanksgiving." The envelope passed from my scarred fingers to her smooth ones. She took it without looking up from her phone, tearing the paper with her thumb while Sophie picked at her pumpkin pie, and Vernon sawed through another slice of turkey. Alex's screen glowed blue on his teenage face, reflecting nothing. $5,000. The check was generous, I thought. Enough to clear most of her credit card debt, the one she'd mentioned last month in that panicked call at 2 in the morning. Fern's eyes scanned the numbers. Her expression didn't change. Not a smile. Not even surprise. Just nothing. 5,000? The words came out flat, like I'd handed her a grocery receipt. "That's it?" My chest tightened. "Well, I figured it'd help with that credit card situation. You know what, Dad?" She looked up then, and her eyes were cold. Colder than the snow outside. Colder than anything I'd seen in 42 years of being her father. "The best gift would be when you're no longer around." Time did something strange. The fire's crackling faded to a dull roar in my ears. Vernon's knife stopped mid-cut. Sophie's fork hung in the air. Alex's thumbs froze on his screen. But Fern's face stayed perfectly still, like she'd just commented on the weather. I tried to speak. My mouth opened, but no sound came. My hands started trembling, so I gripped the back of my chair. The leather felt cold and distant under my palms, like everything else suddenly felt distant. The room tilted slightly, or maybe that was just me. Had I heard her right? "What?" The word barely made it past my lips. "You heard me." Fern set the check down on the table. Not in her purse, not in her pocket. Just down, like it was trash. "You're always here, always hovering, always controlling everything with your money. We can't breathe with you around." The fire popped. A log shifted, sending up sparks. "Fern, maybe—" Vernon started, but his voice died the moment she turned her head. "Shut up, Vernon." She didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on me. "Dad needs to hear this. He needs to understand that we have our own lives, our own plans, and he's always in the way." "Grandpa," Sophie's small voice barely registered. 15 years of mortgage payments. 15 years of showing up when they called, fixing what broke, covering what they couldn't. The numbers started adding up in my head, even as I stood there, watching my daughter explain why the world would be better without me in it. "I just wanted to help," I said quietly. The words sounded weak even to me. "Help?" Fern laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You wanted to keep us dependent, to make sure we'd always need you, always have to come crawling back for money. Well, congratulations, Dad. It worked. We're stuck." Vernon cut another piece of turkey, his eyes fixed on his plate. Sophie's face crumpled, but she stayed silent. Alex scrolled through his phone like nothing was happening. The check lay on the table between the serving dishes. $5,000 nobody wanted. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked around the table, at Vernon's avoidance, at Sophie's worry, at Alex's indifference, at Fern's cold certainty. They'd all been thinking this. Maybe not all of them, but enough. Long enough for Fern to say it out loud on Thanksgiving, with the turkey still warm and my dead wife's photo watching from across the room. "What did you just say?" My voice came from somewhere far away. "About me being gone?" "I said what I said." Fern crossed her arms. "And you know I'm right. When you're gone, we'll finally be free. The house will be ours. Our money will be ours. Our lives will be ours. The fire crackled. Snow pressed against the windows. The chandelier's light felt harsh now, exposing every crack in the facade I'd built, every illusion I'd maintained about what my family actually thought of me. I pushed back from the table slowly, feeling every one of my 65 years in my knees, my back, my chest, where something tight and painful had taken root. I think I need some air. The words came out steady, which surprised me. Everything else was shaking. My hands, my vision, my understanding of who my daughter was, but my voice held. I turned toward the kitchen, away from the table, away from Fern's cold eyes and Vernon's cowardice, and the check that represented 15 years of my life rendered worthless. The kitchen door was only 10 feet away, but it felt like miles. Behind me, Fern said something else, but the words blurred into the fires, crackling, and my heart's pounding. I walked toward the kitchen, each step deliberate, leaving my family at the table with their turkey and their truth. The kitchen door swung shut behind me, muffling the dining room behind it. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, harsh and clinical after the warm glow of the chandelier. I went straight to the sink, gripping the counter's edge with both hands. The laminate dug into my palms. Outside the window, snow piled up on the back fence, each flake adding to the weight. My reflection stared back from the dark glass. An old man with gray hair and confused eyes. I turned on the cold water, splashed my face. The shock helped. Not much, but enough to pull me back from wherever I'd been drifting. She'd said it. My daughter had actually said the world would be better with me dead. I splashed more water, letting it drip from my chin into the sink full of dirty prep bowls and spatulas. The turkey smell mixed with dish soap, sweet and chemical. My hands found a towel, dried my face mechanically. The door slammed open. "Don't you walk away from me!" Fern's voice ricocheted off the tile walls. She crossed the small space in 3 strides, grabbed the sponge from the sink, and started attacking the dishes with sharp, angry movements. Plates clattered, water splashed. The sound was aggressive, deliberate. I turned slowly. "I needed a moment, Fern. What you said, that was hurtful." "Hurtful?" She laughed without humor, scrubbing harder. "You want to talk about hurt? Try living under your shadow for 40 years. Try having a father who thinks every dollar spent is a chain around your neck." "That's not," I started, but she cut me off. "I've spent my entire adult life hearing about your sacrifices. The house, the bills, the kids' school supplies, the car repairs, everything you've done for us, over and over, like we asked for it." "You did ask." My voice came out quiet, steady. "Every time you called at 2 in the morning because the furnace broke. Every time Vernon lost another job and you needed help with rent. Every time. We needed help because you made sure we'd need help." The sponge flew back into the sink with a wet slap. She turned to face me fully, water dripping from her hands. "You bought the house in your name. You pay the mortgage so you can hold it over us. You set it up perfectly, didn't you? Keep us dependent, keep us grateful, keep us trapped." The refrigerator hummed in the sudden silence. Outside, a car passed, its headlights sweeping across the snowy yard. "I bought the house because you couldn't afford it," I said. "You and Vernon were 3 months behind on rent. You had a 6-month-old baby. What was I supposed to do?" "Let us figure it out ourselves." Her voice rose. "Maybe we would have been fine. Maybe we didn't need you swooping in to save us. But you couldn't stand that, could you? You needed to be the hero. You needed us to owe you." She moved closer, and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Not anger, not frustration, something harder, something that had been building for years while I'd been too busy paying bills to notice. Her finger jabbed into my chest, once, twice. Each poke punctuated her words. "You, wanted, us, dependent." I stepped back against the counter. "Fern, that's not true. I wanted to help my daughter raise my grandchildren in a safe place. Or you wanted to make sure we could never leave." Another jab. "Make sure we'd always be right here under your thumb, needing you. Because what would you be without us needing you, Dad? Just a lonely old man in an empty house." The words hit harder than her finger. I raised my hands, not in defense, just surrender. "Is that really what you think, after everything?" "I think—" She paused, breathing hard. The anger in her face shifted to something else, something that looked almost like pain but harder. "I think you need to hear this. Mom would have wanted you to hear it. Don't." My voice came out sharp. Don't bring your mother into this. Why not? She knew. She knew you were like this. Controlling, always needing to be the center of everything, always making it about your sacrifices. Your mother? I stopped, swallowed hard. Your mother would be ashamed to hear you talk like this. Fern's face went red. Don't you dare bring Mom into this. She's gone because of the stress you caused. Always working, always absent, always... That's a lie. My voice stayed quiet, but something in it made her pause. That's a lie, and you know it. Your mother had a heart condition. The doctors explained it. You were there. Convenient diagnosis. Fern's arms crossed. Very convenient way to avoid responsibility. The kitchen felt smaller. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, feel the counter's edge digging into my back. Why are you doing this? I asked. What did I do that was so terrible? Love you. Provide for you. Try to give my grandchildren the stability you never... We want to move. The words came out fast, like she'd been holding them in. Vernon and I. We want to sell the house and move to Arizona. Start fresh. But we can't because it's in your name. Because you'd find a way to stop us. You always do. There it was. The real reason. Not philosophy or feelings or ancient hurts. They wanted the house. They wanted to cash out 15 years of my mortgage payments and disappear to Arizona. I see. The words came out flat, empty. Do you? Do you really see? Fern's voice had shifted from anger to something almost pleading. We're suffocating here, Dad. Vernon can't find work. I'm stuck in retail management. The kids are growing up in your shadow. We need a fresh start, but you won't let us have it. I looked at her, really looked at her. When had my little girl, the one who used to hand me tools in my workshop and call herself my helper, become this stranger? When had help become control in her mind? When had love become manipulation? I'll leave you alone now. I pushed off from the counter, moved toward the doorway that led to the bedroom hall. Yeah, that's right. Her voice followed me, sharp and cutting. Run away like you always do. Can't handle the truth, so you hide, just like with Mom. I stopped at the doorway but didn't turn around. My hand rested on the frame. The house, my house, the one I'd poured 15 years into, suddenly felt like a cage, but I couldn't tell anymore who was trapped in it. I walked into the hallway, leaving Fern alone in the kitchen with the dirty dishes and the cold fluorescent light. I closed the bedroom door behind me and sat in the dark for a long time before turning on the lamp. The rocking chair by the window held me like it always did when sleep wouldn't come. Outside, Chicago wore its winter coat, snow falling past street lamps, occasional headlights cutting through the darkness, the distant wail of a siren somewhere in the city. My reflection ghosted in the window glass, an old man alone with his thoughts. Time moved strangely. I watched the clock on the nightstand crawl from 10 to 11 to midnight. My body ached for sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop replaying. The kitchen, the dining room, Fern's cold eyes saying she wanted me gone. Gone. Dead, really. That's what she meant. When you're no longer around. Not retired in Florida. Not moved to a smaller place. Dead and buried so she could finally have her house, her freedom, her Arizona dream. Near 1 in the morning, I stood. My knees protested. Everything protested these days. I crossed to the bookshelf where I kept the things that mattered. Maria's books, my old engineering manuals, and underneath them all, the leather-bound photo album. The leather creaked when I opened it, like it remembered every time I'd sought comfort in these pages. The first photo showed Maria in her wedding dress, 1982, her smile so bright it seemed to light up the faded color. My younger self stood beside her, 23 years old and stupidly optimistic about everything ahead. Next pages, baby Fern, her tiny fist wrapped around my finger. Toddler Fern at the playground, her face full of joy as I pushed her on the swings. 5-year-old Fern in my workshop, wearing one of my old hard hats that swallowed her whole head, handing me a wrench with such seriousness. I stopped on one particular photo. Maria holding Fern, maybe 3 years old, both of them laughing at something off camera. Yellow sundress on Maria. That dress. She wore it to everything important. Fern's kindergarten graduation, school plays, parent-teacher conferences. In the photo, Fern looked at the camera with pure, uncomplicated love. When did it change? I traced my finger over Maria's face, careful not to smudge the old print. Maria's face in that photo, I whispered to the empty room. She was smiling, holding baby Fern. Back then, Fern looked at me like I was a hero. The question haunted me. When did Daddy become Dad become burden? Was it after Maria died 8 years ago, leaving me to navigate Fern's grief alone? Was it when she married Vernon, when financial problems became the language of our relationship? Or was it gradual, death by 1,000 small betrayals I'd been too busy to notice? I closed the album slowly, feeling its weight. My hands caught the lamplight, scarred, calloused, marked by decades of construction work. The burn scar on my right thumb from the welding torch incident in '98. The permanent calluses from gripping tools. The white line across my left palm where a piece of sheet metal had sliced deep during the Henderson building project. Every mark told a story of providing. Every scar was a payment made. 15 years. 15 years of mortgage payments. I did the math that night, sitting in my rocking chair while Chicago slept. $600 a month average over 15 years. $287,000 total, not counting the credit card bailouts, 3 of them totaling another $18,000. Not counting the car repairs, the emergency loans, the kids' school supplies, the medical bills when Vernon's insurance lapsed. None of it repaid. None of it even acknowledged, apparently. Just expected. Worse than expected. Resented. I thought about Maria's words. Ones she'd said so often I could hear her voice. Lem, don't let people mistake your kindness for weakness. She'd say it when contractors tried to underbid me, when neighbors asked for favors they never returned, when Fern started calling more often as an adult, but only when she needed something. I finally understood what she meant. Standing, I walked to the window and pressed my forehead against the cold glass. The city stretched out below, thousands of lights representing thousands of lives. People who probably also struggled with when to help and when to stop helping, when sacrifice became enabling, when love became a weapon used against you. I thought I was building a legacy, I said to my reflection. Turns out I was building a prison for myself. But here's what Fern didn't understand, what Vernon couldn't see, what maybe even I hadn't fully grasped until tonight. I hadn't created their dependency to trap them. I'd created it because I loved them. Because when your child calls crying at 2 a.m, you help. When your grandchildren need winter coats, you buy them. When the furnace breaks in January, you fix it. I'd done what fathers do, what I thought fathers were supposed to do. They'd taken it and twisted it into something ugly, something selfish on my part, when the selfishness was theirs all along. They wanted the house, my equity, my investment, my 15 years, wrapped up in a neat Arizona package, and I was the obstacle. That night, sitting alone in my bedroom while my family slept, or pretended to sleep or hid from me, I decided something. I was done being invisible in my own life. I didn't know how yet. Didn't know what shape my response would take. But standing there with the cold glass against my forehead and Maria's photo watching from the nightstand, I felt something shift inside me. Something that had been bending for years finally snapped clean. I turned from the window and looked at my bedroom, my sanctuary, the one space that was truly mine. Then at Maria's photo on the nightstand, I picked up the silver frame, its weight familiar in my scarred hands. "I'm sorry, Maria," I whispered to her frozen smile. I tried. I really tried with her. Setting the photo down carefully, I moved to the bed and sat on its edge. Exhaustion pulled at me now, but it was different than before. Not the exhaustion of defeat. Something else. Something that felt almost like relief. I couldn't change the past, couldn't undo Fern's words, or take back my years of sacrifice, but I could control what happened next. The decision was made, even if the plan wasn't. Outside, snow continued falling on Chicago, covering everything in white. Fresh start, clean slate. Maybe that's what I needed too. Not Arizona, something else. Something that would show my daughter exactly what life looked like when I finally, truly, stepped aside. I didn't sleep. When gray morning light finally crept through the window, I was still in the chair, watching the city wake up beneath its blanket of snow. 7 o'clock came without ceremony. My body ached from hours in the rocking chair, but my mind felt sharp, focused in a way it hadn't been in years. Standing took effort, knees protesting, back stiff, but I managed. The hallway stretched quiet and empty before me. No sounds from the other bedrooms. Fern and her family either sleeping late or avoiding me. Both suited me fine. The kitchen held yesterday's ghost, dirty plates still in the sink, the faint smell of turkey gone cold. I ignored it all, went straight to the coffee maker, dumped in grounds without measuring. Strong coffee, the kind that strips paint and keeps construction workers functional through 14-hour shifts. While it brewed, my eyes caught on the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one where I kept important papers. Home documents written on the folders tab in Maria's careful handwriting, back when she managed our filing system. My hand reached up, pulled it down. The folder felt heavier than it should. I set it on the kitchen table, poured coffee so strong it looked like crude oil, and sat. Inside, insurance papers, warranty booklets, old utility bills, and underneath everything, the contract. Cream-colored paper gone slightly yellow at the edges. My signature in blue ink. Date, March 15th, 2010. The numbers swam into focus. Property address, 342 Oak Street, Oak Park. Purchase price, $320,000. Primary owner, Lemuel Gomez. Fern's voice from the kitchen echoed, "It's your house, your name." She was right about that. I stared at that signature, and memory pulled me backward. 14 years. 14 years since that signature. Since the day I'd believed I was helping my daughter build a life. I remembered that day clearly. Spring 2010. Fern had shown up at my old house, the smaller one Maria and I had bought when we first married. Different neighborhood, different life. I'd been 50 then, still working construction full-time, still believing retirement was something distant and manageable. The doorbell had rung just after breakfast. Through the peephole, Fern, tears streaking her face, baby Sophie bundled in her arms against the March cold. "Dad," her voice broke when I opened the door. "Dad, we got rejected." She'd thrust a letter at me. Chase Bank letterhead. Application denied, in bold across the top. I'd read it standing in my doorway while she cried into Sophie's blanket. Credit score insufficient. Debt-to-income ratio unfavorable. Employment history unstable. "What about Vernon's job?" I'd asked, already knowing the answer. Fern's face crumpled further. "He's between positions right now. The shop laid him off 3 months ago." Between positions. That phrase would become Vernon's permanent state. "Please, Dad, the kids need a stable home. We found this perfect place in Oak Park. Good schools. Safe neighborhood. We just need help with the down payment. Maybe co-signing." Sophie had chosen that moment to grab my finger with her tiny fist. 6 months old. All innocence and trust. I'd looked at that baby, at my daughter's desperate face, and felt my resolve crumbling. "How much do you need?" "Just co-sign. I promise we'll pay you back once Vernon finds something steady." We'd driven to Chase Bank together that afternoon. The loan officer, a professional woman in her 40s, with a no-nonsense haircut, had reviewed our situation with clinical efficiency. Papers spread across her desk. Computer screens glowing. Numbers that seemed enormous then. Routine now. "Mr. Gomez." She'd looked at me over her reading glasses. "Since you're the primary income source with established credit, we'll list you as the primary owner. Your daughter will be a co-resident." I'd hesitated. Primary owner, not co-owner. The distinction felt important, but Fern had been bouncing Sophie on her knee, making the baby giggle, and I'd thought, what does it matter? Family takes care of family. "That's fine." I'd signed where she pointed. "Family takes care of family." Fern had hugged me tight when we left the bank, Sophie sandwiched between us. "Thank you, Daddy. You're the best. I promise we'll make you proud." Daddy. That was the last time she'd called me that. The coffee had gone cold in my hand. I was back in 2024, sitting at the kitchen table, staring at that signature from a different life. The contract's fine print suddenly seemed larger, clearer than it ever had before. Primary owner, Lemuel Gomez. Property address, 342 Oak Street, Oak Park, Illinois. Co-resident, Fern Gomez Vernon. Mortgage term, 30 years. Monthly payment, approximately $1,600. I pulled out my calculator, the old one with the big buttons that I'd used for construction estimates. 15 years of payments, 12 months per year, $600 average monthly payment. The numbers added up cold and clear. $287,000, not counting interest rate fluctuations, not counting the times I'd paid extra when they'd fallen behind on utilities, not counting the 3 credit card bailouts totaling another $18,000, not counting Vernon's emergency car repairs that somehow always happened right before Christmas. I took a fresh piece of paper from the drawer, listed it all out in neat columns, the way I used to calculate material costs for building projects. Mortgage payments, $287,000 credit cards, $18,000 car repairs, $12,000 school supplies to clothes, $8,000 emergency loans, $15,000 miscellaneous bailouts, $9,000 total, $349,000 over 15 years. Not a single dollar repaid, not even acknowledged, just expected, then resented, then finally weaponized against me. Vernon's between positions had become permanent unemployment. Fern's promises to pay me back had become accusations of control. My help had become their prison, somehow. I wrote on the notepad in capital letters, "House taught mine," legally, completely. The words stared back at me. Fern had meant it as an accusation when she'd said, "your house," but she'd accidentally told the truth. It was my house, my name on the deed, my money in every nail and shingle. Mine. Footsteps creaked overhead. Someone was awake. I gathered the papers quickly, slid them back into the folder, stood. My legs felt steadier now. Purpose had a way of strengthening old bones. I walked back to my bedroom, folder clutched like a weapon, past the hallway mirror, and saw myself, a 65-year-old man with gray hair and tired eyes, but standing straighter than I had in days. Behind me, the house stretched out, my house, every inch of it earned, and ahead lay a course of action I hadn't fully formed yet, but felt crystallizing with each step. The bedroom door closed behind me with a soft click. I put the folder on my nightstand, next to Maria's photo. Her smile seemed knowing, almost approving. I had proof now. Legal proof. Financial proof. Moral proof, if such a thing existed. What came next was just logistics. I needed professional confirmation of what I already suspected. The phone call from my bedroom felt clandestine, which was ridiculous. This was my house, my decision, my right. But I kept my voice low anyway. Mark Rivera's number was on a business card tucked into my wallet, slightly worn from years of carrying it. We'd worked together 2 decades ago when his firm handled contract law for the construction company. He'd gone solo since then, built a practice that let him keep Saturday hours for friends who needed them. "Mark Rivera? Mark, it's Lem Gomez. I need legal advice." I paused, choosing words carefully. "Can you see me today?" A brief silence, then, "Lem? Sure, buddy. What's going on? You sound—" "I'll explain in person, please. Come by at 10 tomorrow. Saturday work for you?" "Perfect." I hung up before he could ask more questions. That gave me Friday to avoid my family and prepare what I'd say. "How do you explain to your lawyer that your daughter wished you dead and you're planning to take everything back?" The words didn't exist yet, but I had 24 hours to find them. Friday crawled by like an injured animal. I stayed in my bedroom mostly, made excuses about not feeling well, when Sophie knocked to ask if I wanted lunch. The kid's voice sounded worried, which bothered me more than Fern's continued silence, but I couldn't explain. Not yet, not to anyone. I spent the afternoon on my laptop researching Illinois property law, terms I'd never needed to know before: tenancy at will, month-to-month occupancy, primary ownership rights, eviction procedures. The legal language was dry as dust, but underneath it all was a simple truth. The person whose name was on the deed had power. Period. Friday night, I lay awake again. Not from grief this time, but from planning, calculating. By dawn Saturday, I had my approach mapped out. 7:30 in the morning, I showered for the first time in 2 days. Put on good clothes, the charcoal slacks and blue button-down I'd worn to Maria's funeral. Respect for Mark's time and maybe for the seriousness of what I was about to do. Grabbed the folder and my wallet. The house was quiet as I left. If anyone heard me go, they didn't emerge to ask questions. Oak Park to downtown Chicago via the Blue Line took 30 minutes. I boarded at the Harlem station, found a seat by the window, and watched the city transform as we traveled east. Residential blocks gave way to industrial zones, then to the dense urban core where buildings scraped sky and Lake Michigan spread like a steel mirror. Other passengers ignored me. Standard Chicago train etiquette. A mother with 2 kids. A teenager with headphones. A man in a suit reviewing documents. All of us cocooned in our separate purposes, hurtling underground toward whatever needed handling. The Washington stop put me 2 blocks from Mark's building. I climbed to street level and got hit with November wind coming off the lake, sharp enough to make my eyes water. Walked fast, folder tucked under my arm like classified materials. The building was all glass and steel, the kind that screamed, success. Marble lobby. Security desk with a board guard who waved me toward the elevators after I signed in. 28th floor. My ears popped during the ascent. The elevator opened to brass letters. Rivera and Associates. Small practice, but quality. A receptionist who looked fresh out of college smiled professionally. Mr. Gomez, Mark's expecting you. Go on back. Second door on the right. Mark's office had the view I'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown. Lake Michigan visible in the distance with ice forming along its edges. The man himself stood when I entered, 50 years old, fit from regular gym time, hair going distinguished gray at the temples. We shook hands. His grip was firm, concerned. Lem, sit! He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. Want coffee? You look like you could use it. I'm past coffee, Mark. I sat, pushed the folder across the polished wood surface. I need answers. He settled into his chair, pulled the folder closer, opened it. His expression shifted from casual to professional as he scanned the first page. Put on reading glasses. Read in silence except for the occasional rustle of paper and a low that could have meant anything. Minutes passed. Outside, a helicopter crossed the skyline. Inside, I watched Mark work, checking details against something on his computer screen, probably the Illinois property database, knowing him. He made notes on a legal pad in handwriting that looked like controlled chaos. Finally, he leaned back, removed his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose. Lem! His voice carried weight. Legally speaking, this property is entirely yours. Something in my chest loosened. Validation. Explain that. Mark tapped the contract. Primary owner. Your name, your credit, your financial responsibility. Your daughter is listed as a co-resident, which is essentially a tenant designation. She has no ownership stake. You've been making every payment for... He checked his notes. 15 years. Can I take it back? He blinked. Take it back? Lem, you never gave it away. They're essentially tenants living in your property. What exactly are you asking? What if I want them out? Mark whistled softly, set down his pen. That's heavy. They're family. Family that told me... I stopped. Reconsidered. But if I couldn't tell my lawyer, who could I tell? Family that told me the best gift would be when I'm no longer around. My daughter said that, to my face, on Thanksgiving. The office went very quiet. Even the city noise from 28 floors below seemed to pause. Mark stared at me, professional mask slipping to show genuine shock. She said that? Word for word. He picked up his pen again, clicked it twice. A thinking habit I remembered from years ago. Okay, you have every legal right to do this. Illinois law requires notice for eviction. Standard is 30 days without cause. Can I do it faster? They're month-to-month residents without a formal lease, correct? I nodded. Then technically you can give them as little as 14 days. 2 weeks. But Lem... He leaned forward. Are you absolutely sure? This is permanent. Family doesn't come back from something like this. I thought about Fern's cold eyes, Vernon's passive enabling, 15 years of being their safety net, then their scapegoat, then their wished-for corpse. More sure than I've been about anything in a long time. Mark studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. All right, I'll draft the notice. Needs to be formal, in writing. Specify the date they must vacate. Where will you be during all this? Somewhere warm. I hadn't thought it through completely, but the words felt right. Away from all this cold. Away from everything. Hawaii? Florida? Somewhere like that. He turned to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. The printer hummed to life behind him. I'm drafting this now. You'll need to serve them personally, or have it delivered by certified mail. Make sure you document everything. Dates, times, witnesses if possible. I watched the printer spit out pages, legal language that would sever 15 years of obligation, 2 weeks' notice that would free me from 3 decades of being the family bank. Mark signed the bottom, slid it across the desk. I'll hold this until you're ready to serve it. Once you hand this over, there's no taking it back. They'll have 14 days from receipt to vacate the premises. I took the envelope, felt its weight. Light as paper, heavy as consequences. Thank you, Mark. Don't thank me yet. He stood, came around the desk, put a hand on my shoulder. Just make sure you're ready for whatever comes next. Family wars get ugly fast. It's already ugly. We shook hands again. His grip conveyed something beyond professional courtesy, respect maybe, solidarity between men who understood that sometimes walking away was the only move left. I walked to his office door, envelope in hand, future secured in writing. Behind me, Mark called out, "Lem? Yeah, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing." I turned, met his eyes. That makes one of us. But I was lying. Standing there in that 28th floor office with the city sprawled below, and legal power clutched in my hand, I felt more certain than I had since Maria died, maybe more certain than I'd ever felt. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click. The train ride back felt different. I had legal certainty now, and an envelope in my coat pocket that would change everything. By the time I reached Oak Park, it was nearly noon. I grabbed lunch at a small diner near the station, coffee and a sandwich I barely tasted, trying to plan next steps. The envelope from Mark sat in my inside pocket like a concealed weapon, loaded, ready. But one more thing needed handling first. Home by 2 o'clock. The house greeted me with silence that felt intentional. No sounds from upstairs, no television noise. The kitchen counter held a note in Fern's handwriting. Went to Outlet Mall, back tonight. F. Perfect. Hours alone. I took off my coat, hung it carefully, walked to my bedroom, tucked Mark's envelope into my nightstand drawer, underneath the photo of Maria, then returned to the living room, to the desk where my old computer sat gathering dust. The machine took forever to boot up, 5 years old, whirring like it resented being disturbed. While it loaded, I made tea, ritual, calm. Sat in the desk chair and looked around the room. This house, my house, every mortgage payment a brick in walls they'd taken for granted. My online banking loaded slowly. Password twice before it accepted me. Then, account summary. Pension account, 187,340 nas. Enough, more than enough. I picked up my phone, found the bank's customer service number on a billing statement from the home documents folder. Dialed. Got greeted by an automated system. Thank you for calling Chase Bank. For account information, press 1. For credit card services, press 2. I pressed through the menu, waited, hold music, some generic jazz that was supposed to be soothing but just grated. The clock on the wall ticked. My tea cooled. Outside, shadows lengthened as afternoon progressed. 8 minutes later, a voice. Chase Bank, this is Patricia. How may I help you today? Professional. Friendly. Completely unaware she was about to facilitate my escape. I need information about my mortgage account. I rattled off the account number from memory. 15 years of payments had burned it into my brain. Certainly, sir. Let me pull that up. Can I have your social security number on the answer to your security question? I provided both. She verified my identity with practiced efficiency, keys clicking on her end. Then, all right, Mr. Gomez, I have your account here. What can I help you with? What's my remaining balance? Your current mortgage balance is $43,127.89. The number hung in the air. 43,000. 15 years of payments, and that's what remained between me and total freedom. I want to pay it off. The words came out steady, decisive. Today, in full. A pause. Oh, wonderful. May I ask the reason for early payoff? Standard script question she probably asked everyone. Personal. Of course, the process is straightforward. Once we receive the funds, it'll take 24 to 48 hours to process completely. You'll receive a satisfaction of mortgage document. More typing. How would you like to make the payment? Online transfer from my pension account. She walked me through it. I opened a second browser window, logged into online banking, navigated to transfers, set it up, from pension account to mortgage account. Amount $43,127 audience. My finger hovered over confirm. This was real money, nearly a quarter of my retirement savings. Once I clicked, there'd be no undoing it. But what was I saving for? To keep paying for a family that wanted me dead? To preserve resources for people who saw me as an obstacle rather than a father? I clicked confirm, authentication screens, security questions, final confirmation, transfer initiated. Funds will be withdrawn immediately and applied to your mortgage account. I've completed the transfer, I told Patricia. Excellent. I can see it processing now. Mr. Gomez, just to confirm, the property at 342 Oak Street. Oak Park will be fully under your name with no co-owners once this processes. That's correct. Just me. Congratulations on paying off your mortgage, sir. It's quite an achievement. Thanks. We exchanged pleasantries and she disconnected. I sat staring at the computer screen. The transfer confirmation showed pending. 24-48 hours for completion. A ping from my email. I opened it. Your mortgage payment of $43,227 has been received and is processing. You will receive final documentation within 2 business days. I hit print. The printer wheezed to life, spat out the confirmation. I held it, reading and rereading. The words were simple but carried weight that physical objects shouldn't possess. Paid in full, pending final processing. Walking to the filing cabinet felt ceremonial. I opened the Home Documents folder, slid the confirmation in with the original contract, closed the drawer, returned to the couch and just sat there, holding the printed page, letting it sink in. 15 years of payments, $287,000 total with interest. And in one afternoon, one phone call, one button click, I'd taken back what was always mine. The house was mine. The control was mine. The power was mine. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt like I was holding the cards instead of being played. Afternoon sun streamed through the windows, turning dust motes into floating gold. The house settled around me with creaks and sighs. Familiar sounds I'd heard 1,000 times, but never really listened to. These were my walls, my floors, my decision. I looked at the printout again. Property address, 342 Oak Street. Owner, Lemuel Gomez. Mortgage, paid in full. When Fern had said your house like it was an accusation, she'd handed me the solution without realizing it. She was right. It was my house. Legally, financially, completely. She'd just never understood what that meant. A car door slammed outside, distant. Probably a neighbor. But it pulled me back to reality. The family would return eventually. I needed to hide evidence, act normal, wait for the right moment. I stood, folded the printout, tucked it back in the filing cabinet, closed and locked the drawer, pocketed the key. When I turned around, the room looked exactly as it had an hour ago. Nothing visible had changed, but everything had changed. I walked to the window, looked out at Oak Park in late afternoon light. Snow melted slowly on sidewalks. A kid rode a bike down the street, normal life continuing while mine transformed completely. Another car door, closer this time. Voices, Fern's sharp tone carrying even through glass. They were back. I smoothed my face into neutrality, checked my reflection in the window. The man looking back appeared calm, composed. They'd never guess what I'd done while they were buying things they didn't need with money they didn't have. The front door opened. Footsteps. Shopping bags rustling. Sophie's voice asking Vernon something about dinner. I remained at the window, just another old man watching the world go by, waiting for night to fall. Saturday night, I stayed in my room while the family watched TV downstairs. Their voices drifted up through the vents, laughter at some show, Vernon's occasional comment, Sophie asking for popcorn. Normal family sounds from a family that had stopped being mine somewhere along the way. I sat in my chair by the window, tickets to Hawaii still hidden in my nightstand drawer, and waited for Sunday. Morning came cold and gray. I woke at 6:30 to silence. They were sleeping late after their shopping expedition. Perfect. I dressed in layers, thermal shirt, sweater, heavy coat. Left a note on the kitchen counter. Going out. L. Nothing more. They didn't deserve explanations anymore. The Red Line train from Oak Park to downtown took 40 minutes. I sat near the back, watching Chicago wake up through dirty windows. Sunday morning riders, a nurse in scrubs heading to a hospital shift, a young couple dressed for brunch, a man my age with a grocery bag. All of us moving through the city with separate purposes, invisible to each other. Michigan Avenue greeted me with December's particular brand of misery. Wind off Lake Michigan cut through my coat like it had a personal grudge. The magnificent mile lived up to its name even in winter. Massive stores with elaborate window displays, holiday lights strung between buildings, tourists bundled against the cold taking selfies with shopping bags. I walked with no destination, hands deep in pockets, just needing to be somewhere that wasn't home. Past Macy's with its animated holiday windows. Past Tiffany's where engagement rings sparkled under spotlights. Past families emerging from brunch. Kids hopped up on pancakes. Parents looking exhausted but content. The crowd made me invisible, which felt right. Nobody looked twice at an old man in a gray coat walking alone on a Sunday morning. I could have been anyone. I could have been nobody. Then I stopped. The travel agency storefront wasn't particularly large, wedged between a luggage store and a Starbucks. Pacific Dreams Travel in blue letters above the door. But the window display hit me like a physical force. A poster. Enormous. Maybe 6 feet wide. Escape to Paradise. Hawaii. 7/9/99. In bold yellow letters across the top. Below, Waikiki Beach at sunset. Turquoise waters so clear you could see the sandy bottom. Golden sand stretching to impossible palm trees. Sky painted in oranges and pinks that didn't exist in Chicago's gray December palette. A woman walking into the surf, her back to the camera, arms outstretched like she was embracing the ocean itself. I stood there on Michigan Avenue, wind whipping around me, staring at that poster like it was showing me a different planet. My reflection ghosted in the window glass. Old man, tired eyes, gray hair, superimposed over tropical paradise. The contrast was almost funny. Almost. When was the last time I did something just for myself? The thought arrived fully formed. No preamble. I couldn't remember. Years? Decades? Everything had been about Fern, about the grandkids, about paying for their lives, while mine remained on hold. Even Maria's death hadn't freed me. I'd just channeled grief into more giving, more sacrifice, more believing that eventually they'd appreciate it. The poster's price tag glowed. $799. I had $143,000 in my pension account. Simple math. 0.55% of my remaining savings for 2 weeks in paradise. Less than a rounding error. Less than one mortgage payment from the 15 years I'd already spent. But something held me back. Was this running away? Was this cowardice? Then I remembered Maria's voice. Not from memory, but from a conversation we'd had 20 years ago. Sitting on the back porch of our old house, drinking lemonade on a hot summer evening. "Lem," she'd said, "someday when we retire, let's go to Hawaii. Just us. No obligations, no schedule. Just sun and ocean." We never went. There was always something. Fern needed help. Money was tight. Maria got sick. Always something. "This isn't escape," I said aloud, surprising myself. A passing woman glanced at me, old man talking to himself, and hurried on. "This is what you earn when you finally stop letting people take." The decision crystallized. I pushed open the door. A bell chimed. Inside was warm enough to make my glasses fog. Tropical posters covered every wall. Maui waterfalls, Big Island volcanoes, Kauai cliffs. Steel drum music played softly from hidden speakers. The smell hit me. Coconut air freshener, aggressive but not unpleasant, like the room was trying to convince you that you'd already left winter behind. Behind a desk cluttered with brochures sat a woman in her 30s, dark hair pulled back, professional smile warming when she saw me. "Good morning, looking to escape the cold?" You could say that. I approached the desk, unzipping my coat. "Tell me about Hawaii." Her eyes lit up. Commission radar, probably, but genuine enthusiasm, too. "Our most popular package, 2 weeks on Oahu, beachfront hotel in Waikiki, round-trip flights included. Activities, car rental options, everything you need." She pulled out laminated brochures, spreading them like cards. "When were you thinking? How soon can I leave?" She blinked, fingers pausing over her keyboard. Let me check availability." Typing, eyes scanning the screen. "We have seats available December 3rd. That's Tuesday." 2 days. 2 days from making the decision to being on a plane. The speed felt reckless and perfect. Perfect. Book it. Wonderful. Her professional mask slipped to show genuine surprise. People usually needed to think, consult spouses, check calendars. Solo traveler? Yes, just me. Okay, let me pull up our Oahu packages. More typing, more brochures. She walked me through options. Basic hotel room, $7.99 package. Upgraded beachfront room, add $400. Ocean view suite, add $800. Flight times, early morning or afternoon. Rental car, yes or no. Activities packages. Snorkeling, helicopter tours, dinner cruises. I chose without hesitation. Upgraded room, morning flight. No rental car, I'd walk or take ride shares. No activity packages, I'd figure it out as I went. She calculated, fingers flying across calculator keys. Total comes to $1,947, including all taxes and fees. That includes round-trip flights, 14 nights at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, that's right on Waikiki Beach, incredible views, and airport transfers. I handed her my credit card, not the pension account, keeping that separate, pristine. The card disappeared into the machine. She made small talk while it processed. Weather in Hawaii, perfect always. Best restaurants, endless options. Things to do. Beach, mostly beach. Really beach is the point. The receipt printer churned. She handed me papers. Boarding passes, hotel confirmation, a glossy folder labeled Your Hawaiian Adventure. Tickets for Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. departure from O'Hare. Arriving Honolulu, 12:30 p.m. local time. Celebrating something special? She asked, stapling documents together. I looked at her, young, optimistic, probably went to Hawaii herself once and never stopped talking about it. How could I explain that I'd spent 15 years paying someone else's mortgage, that my daughter wished me dead, that I'd finally decided to stop being a doormat and start being a person? You could say that? I smiled. First genuine smile in days. A new beginning. Her answering smile was warm, uncomplicated. Well, congratulations. You're going to love it. The ocean is like nothing else. I left the agency holding my papers like they were sacred documents. The bell chimed behind me. Outside, December wind tried to rip the folder from my hands, but I held tight. 2 weeks, Waikiki Beach, sun and ocean and no responsibilities. No Fern, no Vernon, no guilt. I stood on Michigan Avenue, Christmas lights twinkling overhead, shoppers flowing around me like water around a stone, and felt something I hadn't felt since before Maria died. Anticipation. Not dread, not obligation, not weary resignation. Actual anticipation for something good coming toward me. The tickets confirmed. December 3rd, 7 a.m. check-in. 48 hours from now, I'd be on a plane heading west, leaving everything behind. I started walking back toward the red line, folder tucked inside my coat against the wind. Chicago's cold couldn't touch me anymore. I was already somewhere warmer. Sunday evening, I avoided dinner, stayed in my room with my tickets spread on the bed, like treasure maps. Monday morning, Fern left for work at 8. I heard her car start, listened until the sound faded. Vernon's voice drifted from downstairs, taking the kids to Sky Zone, back by 6. By 4 p.m., I had the house to myself. The kitchen felt different in the late afternoon light, golden December sun slanting through windows, making everything look warmer than it was. I sat at the table where we'd eaten Thanksgiving dinner, barely a week ago, where Fern had handed me my death wish, wrapped in casual cruelty. Blank paper, blue pen, deep breath. Dear Fern, I crossed it out. Too soft, too familiar. This wasn't a letter from a father. This was a legal notification from a property owner. Fern and Vernon. Better, formal. Both names, both responsible. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not gone the way you... Stopped. Too emotional. Too much explanation. They didn't deserve my reasoning. Just facts. I crumpled the paper. Started again. The second attempt was worse. Too angry, too detailed about every betrayal. The third was too cold, almost cruel. I wasn't trying to hurt them. Just establish boundaries they should have recognized years ago. Fourth attempt. I wrote slowly, weighing each word like it was evidence in court. Because it was, in a way. This note would be read, reread, probably shown to lawyers or friends, or posted online in some desperate bid for sympathy. Every word needed to be defensible. When I finished, I read it aloud to the empty kitchen. Fern and Vernon, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not gone the way you wished on Thanksgiving, but gone from your life in a different way. I've paid off the mortgage. The house at 342 Oak Street, Oak Park, is now entirely in my name. You'll find the proof attached. You have 14 days from today, December 2nd, 2024, to vacate the property. I'll return on December 17th. If you're still here, I'll proceed with legal eviction. This isn't cruelty. This is consequences. You wanted me gone. Now you're gone. But on my terms, not yours. I've spent 15 years sacrificing for you. $287,000 in payments. Countless hours of worry. And what did I get? A wish for my death. I'm going to live my life now. The life I put on hold for you. Don't try to reach me. I won't answer. Lem Gomez. I read it 3 times. Every word felt right. Cold, maybe, but fair. The hardest part had been getting the tone right. Not angry, not sad, just done, complete, final. I thought about adding something softer. A line about hoping they'd learn from this. A mention of Sophie and Alex, how I'd miss them. But why? They wouldn't appreciate it. Fern would twist any softness into leverage for manipulation. This was perfect. Surgical. Clean. I went to the file cabinet in the living room, unlocked it with the key I kept on my keychain, found the mortgage satisfaction document, paid in full, stamped in red across the top, folded it carefully, returned to the kitchen, folded the note around the document. Both fit perfectly into a large manila envelope from the drawer. Sealed it, wrote on the outside in black marker, Fern and Vernon, read immediately. Now for placement. The counter? Too easy to overlook. The fridge? They might not see it until morning. I needed somewhere central, unavoidable, where they'd encounter it the moment they entered. My eyes landed on the crystal vase in the center of the table. Wedding gift from Maria's family. Heavy cut glass that caught light and threw rainbow prisms across the walls. Maria had loved that vase. She'd placed it there 20 years ago, kept it filled with fresh flowers every week until she got too sick. I lifted the vase carefully, placed the envelope underneath, lowered the vase back down. Its weight pinned the envelope perfectly. They'd have to move Maria's legacy to see their consequence. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. Stood back, checked from the doorway. Impossible to miss. The envelope's corner stuck out from under the vase like a flag. Anyone entering the kitchen would see it immediately. Perfect. My bedroom felt like a departure lounge. I pulled the old blue Samsonite from the closet, scarred from decades of use, still serviceable. Laid it open on the bed. Packing felt ceremonial, each item chosen deliberately. Swim trunks, bought 3 years ago for a pool party I never attended. 3 Hawaiian shirts still in their packaging, bought on impulse, never worn. Too casual for an engineer's life. Shorts, sandals, sunscreen SPF 50, sunglasses, a paperback, Lonesome Dove. 800 pages I'd always meant to read but never had time. Everything folded precisely, corners aligned, no wasted space. Old construction habit, efficient packing, maximum utility, minimum bulk. The suitcase zipped closed with a satisfying sound. Finality. I set it by the bedroom door, ready for tomorrow's 5 a.m. departure. Phone next. I changed the voicemail message. I'm away. Don't call. I'll contact you when I'm ready. Practiced it twice before recording. Not if I'm ready. When. Keeping control. The decision to reconnect would be mine, on my timeline. Set the alarm. 5 a.m. Check the Uber app. Ride to O'Hare scheduled for 5:45 a.m. Confirmed. Check the tickets. United Flight 1204. O'Hare to Honolulu. Departure 9 p.m. Gate C24. Check-in opens at 7 a.m. 2 hours was plenty. Everything ready. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at my packed suitcase, thinking about the envelope waiting in the kitchen. Tomorrow morning, Fern would come downstairs to make coffee. She'd see the crystal vase, see the envelope, lift the vase with irritation at something blocking the table's center. Then she'd read it. I tried to imagine her face. The shock, the disbelief, the rage, the panic when she realized this wasn't negotiable, wasn't fixable with tears or promises or manipulation. I'd spent so long being afraid of her disappointment, her anger, her judgment. Now I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not revenge, not even sadness. Just a clean, clear sense of boundaries finally drawn. The window showed darkness, falling. 5:30 p.m. Vernon and the kids would be home soon. I heard his car in the driveway, doors slamming, kids' voices as they entered through the front door. Sophie calling something about dinner. Vernon's response lost in the general noise. I stayed in my room. Didn't go down. Let them wonder where I was, if I was even home. Tomorrow morning, they'd have their answer. Tomorrow morning, everything changed. I looked at Maria's photo on my nightstand, her smile captured 3 decades ago, forever young, forever knowing. I hope you understand, I whispered. I tried. I really tried with her. But trying had limits, even for a father, even for family. I turned off the lamp, lay on top of the covers, fully dressed minus shoes. Tomorrow required an early start, but sleep felt impossible. Too much adrenaline, too much anticipation, too much of everything I'd bottled up for 15 years finally finding release. The house settled into its evening routine around me. Television sounds from downstairs, kids arguing about something, Vernon's ineffective attempts to mediate. Normal family sounds from a family I was about to leave behind. In 12 hours, I'd be gone. In 14 hours, they'd know. In 16 hours, I'd be 35,000 feet over America, heading toward an ocean that had waited decades for me to finally arrive. The alarm pierced darkness at 5 a.m. I silenced it immediately. Old construction habit, waking on first ring to avoid disturbing others. Ironic now, given that disturbing them was exactly my intention. Dressed in the dark, jeans, t-shirt, jacket, comfortable clothes for a long flight. My hands found each item by memory. The house breathed around me, old wood settling, furnace clicking on, that particular silence of pre-dawn when everyone sleeps. I took my suitcase from where it waited by the door, paused at the threshold, listening. Down the hall, Vernon's snoring, thick, rhythmic, the sound of a man who'd never lost sleep over anything important. Beyond that, nothing. Sophie and Alex dead to the world on a school morning they wouldn't be attending. Fern silent in whatever dreams she had. The stairs creaked despite my care. 3rd step, 7th step, 10th. I knew exactly which ones sang and avoided them anyway. Old habit, sneaking out for early work shifts without waking Maria. Now sneaking out for freedom. Kitchen doorway, I stopped. The crystal vase caught ambient light from the street, throwing faint prisms across the table. The envelope underneath remained undiscovered, waiting like a landmine. One more sleep cycle separated Fern from detonation. I could have left it somewhere else. Could have texted after landing. Could have done this 1,000 gentler ways. But gentle had gotten me nowhere for 15 years. I turned away, walked to the front door, opened it carefully. Cold December air hit my face. Sharp, clarifying, real. Closed the door behind me with a soft click that sounded like punctuation. Final sentence. Paragraph break. End of chapter. The Uber waited. White Toyota Camry. Driver named Ahmed according to the app. 30s maybe. Tired eyes in the rearview mirror. He helped with my suitcase without comment. Another early airport run. Nothing special about me. Terminal 3, United? Yes. We pulled away from 342 Oak Street. I looked back once. The house sat dark except for a single porch light I'd forgotten to turn off. Windows black, secrets sleeping inside. One family's comfortable lies about to become uncomfortable truth. Then we turned the corner, and it disappeared. I-90 at 5:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. Eerily empty. Occasional semi-hauling goods somewhere. Early shift workers. Other airport runs. We flew east, headlights cutting through darkness. Downtown Chicago's skyline visible in the distance. Lit towers against lightning sky, indifferent to individual human dramas playing out in its shadow. Ahmed didn't talk, which I appreciated. The radio played soft jazz. I watched Chicago pass. Industrial zones, suburbs, airport hotels, finally the massive terminals of O'Hare rising like spacecraft about to launch. Terminal 3, United. Ahmed helped with my bag, accepted the tip I'd added through the app, drove off. I stood for a moment on the curb, watching other travelers flow into the terminal. Families, business people, that particular energy of 6:30 a.m. departures. Inside, chaos disguised as order. Check-in kiosks beeped, screens directing people through electronic steps. I touched the screen, entered my confirmation number, watched my boarding pass print, seat 17A, window. Perfect. Bag drop swallowed my suitcase on a conveyor belt, tagged for Honolulu. Watching it disappear felt symbolic, my old life traveling ahead of me, waiting to be unpacked in paradise. Security line moved fast this early. Shoes off, belt off, laptop out, except I didn't have a laptop. Just a carry-on with book, sunscreen, wallet, phone. Walked through the metal detector. No beep. No secondary screening. Just another traveler among thousands. Gate C-24. I arrived at 7:15. Ridiculously early for a 9 a.m. flight. Bought overpriced coffee, $6.50 for burnt airport brew, and sat in an uncomfortable chair designed to prevent sleeping. Watched other passengers gather. A young couple, probably honeymoon. A family with 3 kids, already wired at 7 a.m. Business travelers in suits pecking at laptops. Solo travelers like me, though most looked purposeful, where I felt, what? Liberated? Escaped? Reborn? All of the above. My phone sat silent in my pocket. 8 a.m. came. 8:15. 8:25. 8:32. It started. First vibration, Fern Mobile on the screen. I watched it buzz, let it go to voicemail. 8:33. Again. Ignored. 8:34. 8:35. 8:37. Continuous. Relentless. Desperate. I placed the phone face down on my thigh. Couldn't see the screen, but felt each vibration like a heartbeat. Other passengers glanced at the insistent buzzing. Annoying, that guy who doesn't answer his phone. 8:40. 12 missed calls. I sipped coffee. It was terrible. I sipped again. 8:45. Voicemail notifications stacked up. I didn't listen. Didn't need to. Could imagine perfectly. Shock giving way to anger, giving way to panic. The whole cycle Fern ran whenever life refused to bend to her will. 8:50. Another call. I stared at the phone, watching Fern Mobile flash with each ring. Debated. Letting it ring made a point, but so did answering once, showing her I was calm while she was chaos, showing her that her distress didn't move me anymore. 8:55, she called again. I answered, "What is this, Dad?" Her voice came through so loud that I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Nearby passengers looked over, that guy causing a scene. I lowered the volume, pressed the phone back to my ear. "You found the note. Good. You can't do this. This is our home." Calm. Stay calm. "No, it's my home. Check the documents." "You're kicking us out?" Hysteria creeping into her voice. "Where are we supposed to go?" "Not my problem. You have 14 days. "This is insane. You're being cruel." "I'm being fair. You wanted me gone. Now you're gone." "Dad, please." Her tone shifted, tears entering. The manipulation playbook, page 1. Rage doesn't work. Try pleading. "Please, we can talk about this. We talked on Thanksgiving. You said the best gift is my death. I'm giving you a different gift. A lesson." Background noise. Vernon's voice muffled. "Let me talk to him." I spoke before he could get the phone. "Vernon, find a job. You've had 15 years. "Where are you going?" Fern back on, voice breaking. "Come back. We need to talk about this." "Somewhere you'll never find me." A pause. In that pause, I heard everything. Her realization that this was real, that I wasn't negotiating, that her usual tactics wouldn't work, that for the first time in her adult life, Daddy wasn't going to fix it. "Goodbye, Fern." I ended the call, powered off the phone completely, not just silent, but off. The screen went black, dead, silent, perfect. Set it on the chair beside me and picked up my coffee. Cold now, but I drank it anyway. The PA system crackled. "United Flight 1204 to Honolulu will begin boarding in approximately 5 minutes. Zone 1 passengers may line up at this time." I stood, stretched. 65-year-old joints protested the uncomfortable chair, but nothing hurt that sunshine wouldn't fix. Took my carry-on, moved to the boarding area. Around me, families gathered children. Couples checked tickets. Business travelers finished last-minute emails. The gate agent appeared behind the counter, professional smile in place, ready to facilitate 300 people's journeys west. "Thank you for your patience. We'll now begin boarding United Flight 1204 to Honolulu. Zone 1 passengers, welcome aboard." I was Zone 2, so I waited. Watched Zone 1 file through. First class, premium economy. those who'd paid extra or traveled enough to earn privileges. They disappeared down the jetway toward the plane. Zone 2 passengers. Welcome aboard. I scanned my boarding pass. Beep. Approved. Walked down the jetway, that familiar industrial tunnel, connecting terminal to aircraft. The plane appeared ahead. Boeing 777. Big enough for the long Pacific crossing. Entered through door 2L. Flight attendant smiled. Welcome aboard. 17A is on your left, about halfway back. Found it. Window seat, emergency exit row, extra legroom. Perfect. Stowed my carry-on overhead. Sat. Buckled in. A couple claimed 17B and 17C, older, 60s maybe, dressed in matching Hawaiian shirts, honeymooners at 65. She caught me looking, smiled. First time to Hawaii? In a way, yes. Oh, you'll love it. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary. Hawaii is magical. I smiled politely, turned to the window. Didn't want conversation, didn't want to explain that I was celebrating too, just a different kind of anniversary. The death of obligation, the birth of boundaries. The plane filled. Families, couples, solo travelers, everyone pursuing their version of paradise. Overhead bins slammed shut. Flight attendants walked the aisle checking seatbelts, stowing bags, delivering safety spiels nobody listened to. Then, the sound I'd been waiting for. The cabin door closing. Heavy, mechanical. Final. That sound meant commitment. No more boarding, no more getting off. We were sealed in this metal tube until Hawaii. PA system. Flight attendants, prepare for departure. The plane lurched backward, pushed by a tug we couldn't see. Began the slow taxi toward the runway. I watched through the window, terminals sliding past, other planes queuing, ground crew in reflective vests directing traffic. The captain's voice, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're number 3 for takeoff. Flight time to Honolulu is approximately 9 hours. We'll be cruising at 39,000 feet. Weather in Honolulu is 82 degrees and sunny." 82 degrees, sunny. The opposite of everything I was leaving behind. The plane turned onto the runway. Stopped. Engines spooled up. That rising whine that meant power building, physics preparing to defy gravity. Then, acceleration. Pushed back into my seat by forces I could feel but not fight. The runway lights blurred past, faster, faster. That moment of uncertainty when the plane was committed but not yet airborne. Then, lift. Smooth and sure. The wheels left pavement. Chicago began falling away below. Banking left, climbing, the city spread out beneath us. Grid of streets, frozen Lake Michigan catching morning sun. Tiny cars on highways. The dense downtown core where I'd made my escape plan real. All of it shrinking, becoming abstract, becoming past. At 35,000 feet, the plane leveled. Seatbelt sign dinged off. Around me, passengers relaxed, reclined seats, pulled out books or tablets or closed eyes for sleep. I opened Lonesome Dove, ran my fingers across the first page. Started reading. The prose was dense. Western, nothing like my life. Perfect. Flight attendant appeared. Something to drink? 9:45 a.m. Early for alcohol, but vacation rules applied. Tomato juice, please. She poured it over ice, handed it across. I'd never liked tomato juice before. Never tried it, really. But today felt like a day for new experiences. I sipped. Tangy. Salty. Strange, but not unpleasant. Below, Chicago had disappeared into clouds. Somewhere down there, Fern was panicking. Vernon was useless. Sophie and Alex were confused. Mark was probably fielding a desperate call, asking if there was some legal way to stop this. And I was here, 35,000 feet up, reading a book, drinking tomato juice, heading toward an ocean that had waited 65 years for me to finally arrive. I turned the page and kept reading. The plane began its descent 3 hours later. Through the window, Hawaii emerged from endless blue, volcanic mountains draped in green, white beaches tracing dark rock, water so turquoise it looked artificial. Landing felt like entering a different atmosphere. The cabin door opened and tropical air rushed in. Warm, humid, heavy with the scent of flowers I couldn't name. After Chicago's December bite, it felt like breathing for the first time. Baggage claim moved slowly. I didn't care. A hotel representative waited at arrivals holding a sign. Hilton Hawaiian Village. She placed a lei around my neck. Plumeria, sweet enough to make me dizzy. Aloha! Welcome to paradise. Aloha! The word felt strange in my mouth. It's good to be here. The shuttle driver loaded my suitcase, chattering about weather and beaches and luau's. I nodded, only half listening, watching Waikiki unfold through the windows. Palm trees lined streets. The ocean appeared between buildings, glimpses of impossible blue. Tourists in bright shirts walked slowly, no Chicago urgency visible anywhere. Check-in took 20 minutes. The lobby had no walls, just pillars supporting a roof, open to gardens and ocean beyond. Koi swam in ponds. Children laughed somewhere. Everything moved slower, softer, like time itself had relaxed. Room 1247, 12th floor. I rode the elevator with a honeymooning couple who couldn't stop touching each other. They got off at 11. I continued up, alone with my thoughts and my suitcase and this strange lightness in my chest. The room was simple. Bed, desk, balcony. I dropped my bag and went straight to the sliding glass door. Opened it. Stepped out. The ocean spread before me. Waikiki Beach curved golden in both directions. Waves rolled in, steady as breathing. Surfers dot the water like punctuation marks. Diamond Head Mountain rose to my right, volcanic and ancient and indifferent to human drama. I stood there breathing, just breathing, in and out, salt air, plumeria from my lei, sunscreen from somewhere below, the sound of waves doing what they'd done for millions of years before I arrived, and would do long after I left. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody needed me. Nobody could take from me. The first day, I did nothing. Literally nothing. Changed into shorts. My legs were pale, shockingly white after years of Chicago winters and construction sites that required long pants. Walked to the beach barefoot, hot sand burning until I reached the water's edge, where it turned cool and firm. Rented a chair and umbrella from a cheerful kid who called me Uncle. Lay down, closed my eyes. The ocean provided its soundtrack, waves breaking, rhythm older than humanity, children's laughter, distant music from a hotel bar, a jet ski buzzing somewhere, birds I couldn't identify making calls I'd never heard. I dozed, woke, dozed again, lost track of time completely. My phone stayed in the room, still powered off. No one could reach me. The freedom of that felt physical, like removing a heavy backpack after a long hike. When the sun started setting, I walked back to my room, showered, ordered room service, ate on my balcony watching the ocean turn from blue to gold to gray, slept for 10 hours straight. The next morning I tried surfing. The instructor's name was Jake, 25 maybe, tan like he'd been born that way, enthusiasm radiating off him like heat. A small group gathered on the beach. Me, 2 college girls, a family with a teenage son. First time surfing, bro? First time doing anything just for fun in 15 years. Jake paused, board under his arm, reading my face. Whoa, heavy. Well, let's get you on that board. On sand, it looked easy. Paddle, pop-up, balance. Jake demonstrated with the grace of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. The college girls giggled. The teenager looked bored. I focused, trying to remember the movements. In the water, everything changed. The board wobbled. Waves I'd thought were gentle became powerful forces. I paddled. Jake shouted, "Pop up!" and I tried. My feet slipped. I fell face first into salt water. Came up sputtering, nose burning. Jake laughed, not meanly, just delighted. Again, I tried. Fell. Tried. Fell. My arms ached. Water went up my nose 3 more times. The college girls were already standing on their boards, squealing with success. The teenager managed 2 seconds before wiping out spectacularly. Then somehow I got it. Popped up. Feet found balance. The board glided forward. 3 seconds, maybe 4, and I was surfing. Actually surfing. Then I fell, but I was laughing. I'm too old for this. Jake paddled over, grinning. Nah, man, you're never too old to try. I tried 8 more times. Managed to stand twice. Laughed every single time I fell. When the lesson ended, my arms felt like jelly, and my face hurt from smiling, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed that hard at my own failure. That afternoon, sore muscles forced me to nap. I didn't fight it. Day 3, I hiked Diamond Head. Woke early to beat the heat. Took an Uber to the trailhead. The path climbed steeply, switchbacks and stairs and tunnels carved through volcanic rock. Sweat poured down my back. My legs burned. Other hikers passed me. young couples, families with energetic kids. I kept going, slower but steady. The summit opened up like a revelation. 360 degrees of view, ocean stretching to infinity, Waikiki tiny below, mountains marching into distant haze. Wind whipped up from the crater, cool and clean. I stood at the railing, breathing hard, feeling my heart pound, and felt more alive than I had in years. Tourists took selfies. A family asked me to photograph them. I obliged, handed back their phone. Nobody knew my story. To them, I was just another old guy hiking a mountain. Perfect. Descent was easier. At the bottom, I bought shave ice from a truck. Rainbow-flavored, artificially sweet, tongue-freezing cold. The best thing I'd ever tasted. The days blurred into rhythm. Farmer's market. Bought fresh pineapple, juice running down my chin, sticky and sweet. Poke bowl for lunch. Raw ahi tuna with soy and sesame, tasting like the ocean itself. Afternoon, beach chair, book, dozing. Evening, Mai Tai at sunset, rum strong enough to warm my chest, watching the sky turn impossible colors. One evening, a luau, fire dancers spinning flames, hula dancers telling stories with their hands, ukulele music floating over the audience. I sat next to a retired couple, Tom and Linda from California, 70s, holding hands like teenagers. "Are you here with family?" Linda asked during intermission. "No, just me. First solo trip." Tom nodded approvingly. "Good for you. We've been coming here for 20 years. Best decision we ever made." "I should have done this sooner." Linda patted my arm. "Better late than never, honey." Another day I did nothing again. Found a palm tree near my hotel, spread a towel, opened Lonesome Dove, read 50 pages, dozed, woke to find a hermit crab investigating my book. Laughed. The crab scuttled away, offended. No one needed me. No one called. No one took from me. On day 7, I rented a kayak. Single person, bright yellow. Paddled out past the reef where the water deepened from turquoise to navy. The bottom disappeared beneath me. Fish darted below, silver flashes in crystalline water. My arms ached, but it was a good ache, earned through choice rather than obligation. I stopped paddling, let the current drift me, floated, stared at the sky. A pelican landed nearby, regarding me with one yellow eye before diving for fish. I laughed. This bird had no idea who I was. Didn't know about mortgages or ungrateful daughters or 15 years of sacrifice. Didn't care. Just wanted fish. That evening, back at the hotel, I showered sand off for the dozenth time and smiled. Found myself smiling more. Ordered Ono fish for dinner, local catch, perfectly grilled. The waiter was friendly without being intrusive. The beer was cold. The sunset was free. Halfway through my meal, I realized I'd been here a week. 7 days. Only 7 more until I had to return. Didn't want to go back. Not yet. At the hotel business center, I found a brochure. Big Island Volcano Tours. Day trip available. Pictures showed red lava, volcanic craters, steam vents. Something wild and raw and completely unlike anything in Chicago. I picked up the brochure, looked at my laptop, could book a flight for tomorrow. Inter-island flights ran constantly. Just a quick hop over, see the volcano, come back same day. Why not? I opened the laptop, pulled up the booking site, and started typing. I woke early the next morning, packed a small backpack, and caught the 7 a.m. inter-island flight to Kona. The plane was tiny, propeller-driven, maybe 30 seats. Rose quickly over Oahu, banking west toward the Big Island visible in morning haze. 45 minutes later, we descended over black lava fields that looked like the moon had fallen into the Pacific. Rental car desk, quick process. Young woman handed me keys to a white sedan. Volcano Park is about 2 hours northeast. Road's good, but watch for rain up in elevation. The drive revealed Hawaii's strange geography. Coastal desert giving way to rainforest, giving way to volcanic wasteland. I climbed from sea level to 4,000 feet. Temperature dropped. Mist appeared, then real rain, heavy enough to need wipers. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. I paid the entrance fee, took a map, followed signs to Kilauea Crater, parked in a half-empty lot, grabbed my jacket, actually cold up here. December rain and elevation conspiring against tropical paradise. The crater viewpoint took my breath. Massive caldera, maybe a mile across, dropping into earth like a wound. Steam vents hissed along the edges. Deep in the center, red glow visible even in daylight. Active lava lake, churning and molten. A park ranger gave a talk to gathered tourists. Young guy, early 20s, enthusiastic about geology. The volcano is both creator and destroyer, he explained, gesturing toward the crater. It gives life to these islands, but demands respect. Everything you see here was built by fire and violence. Sounds familiar, I muttered. The ranger turned, caught my eye. Personal experience? You could say I'm rebuilding after an eruption. He nodded like that made perfect sense. Maybe it did. I walked the rim trail, feeling heat radiating from Earth. Sulfur smell, sharp, like rotten eggs, mixed with rain and volcanic rock. The ground felt warm under my feet, almost alive. This mountain had destroyed towns, created new land, killed and birthed simultaneously for millennia. Standing there, I understood something. Destruction wasn't always bad. Sometimes it cleared the way for new growth. Sometimes you had to burn down the old structure before building something better. I took photos, not for social media, just for memory. Proof I'd stood at the edge of creation. The drive back was quiet. I returned the car, caught the evening flight to Oahu, landed at Honolulu as the sun set. Exhausted but exhilarated. Next day I rented a car again. Exploring had gotten under my skin. Drove north, H1 to H2, roads I'd memorized from tourist maps. North Shore waited at the end. Famous surf beaches, small towns, life moving at island pace. Halewa town was all surf shops and shrimp trucks. I bought garlic shrimp from a painted truck, ate standing in a parking lot, grease dripping onto pavement. Best meal of my life in that moment. Sunset Beach lived up to its name. December brought big winter swells, 20-foot waves thundering against shore. Pro surfers rode them like they were playing with death. I sat on volcanic rocks for an hour, watching. Those surfers smiled the whole time, riding waves that could kill them. That was living. Bought another shave ice. Different flavor this time, orange. Drove back south, stopped at a roadside fruit stand. Bought a papaya from an old Filipino man who didn't speak much English. Paid, smiled, drove on. A week ago, I couldn't have enjoyed this. Too raw, too angry. The beauty would have felt like mockery, paradise existing while my life crumbled. But now I could appreciate it. The anger had burned out somewhere between surfing failures and volcano heat. What remained was simpler. Freedom. Pearl Harbor visit came next. Early morning, booked tour, solemn place. USS Arizona Memorial sat over the sunken battleship, oil still leaking after 80 years. Tears of the ship, guides called it. I walked the white memorial, reading names etched in marble. Boys, 18, 19, 22. Died doing their duty. Real sacrifice. Not the kind that gets taken for granted. At Pearl Harbor, I thought about sacrifice. Real sacrifice, not the kind that's expected and exploited. These sailors never had a choice about their fate. I'd had choices all along. Took me 65 years to make the right ones. Moment of silence. Not prayer, just respect. Quiet acknowledgement that some things matter. Left feeling reflective. Bought a small history book from the gift shop, something to remember. My last full day arrived faster than I wanted. Didn't book any tours. Instead, walked to an ABC store, ubiquitous Hawaiian convenience stores, bought a small notebook. Found my palm tree again, the one where the hermit crab had visited. Sat with pen and paper. Started writing. Not a diary, just thoughts. I came here to escape. I'm leaving with a plan. Listed possibilities. Sell house or keep and rent. Smaller apartment. Return to Hawaii. Longer stays monthly. Part-time consulting, engineering, my choice of projects. Volunteer somewhere, dating. The thought felt strange but not impossible. First time in years I was thinking about wants, not obligations. What did I want to do with the rest of my life? I collected shells while thinking. Small ones, worn smooth by waves. Sophie used to love shells. Brief pang, missed my grandkids, but didn't linger on it. They'd still be there when I was ready to reconnect. If I was ready. Packing day came with mixed feelings. Left the lei on the bed, couldn't take fresh flowers through customs. Folded clothes that smelled like sunscreen and salt. Room checkout. Last walk on the beach. Evening at the hotel bar. Ordered local beer, Kona Brewing, something light and tropical. Bartender wiped glasses, friendly smile. Heading home? Yeah, but it'll be different now. He nodded like he'd heard similar statements from every tourist. Always is. Hawaii changes people. My last night's splurge, oceanfront restaurant outside the hotel. Tablecloth, real silverware, menu with no prices visible. I ordered lobster tail, celebrated myself. The waiter brought it with drawn butter, lemon garnish that looked too pretty to eat. Last night in paradise? He asked, setting down the plate. Yeah, heading back to reality tomorrow. He studied my face. You look different than when you arrived. More relaxed. I feel different. Thank you. Come back soon, yeah? I will. I meant it. I promised myself that. The sunset that night was blood red, violent and beautiful. Orange bled into red, bled into purple. Tourists took photos everywhere, trying to capture something that couldn't be captured. I just watched. Didn't check the time. Let the sky perform. Tomorrow I'd go back to Chicago. But I wouldn't go back to the old life. 2 weeks. That's all it took to remember who I was before I became just Fern's dad. I was Lem, 65 years old, an engineer who built things, a man who deserved respect. Back in my room, I set the alarm for 4 a.m. Early flight. Packed everything except tomorrow's clothes. Lay on the bed with windows open, ocean sounds drifting in. Couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, from anticipation. Tomorrow would answer the question that had been lurking since I left. Did they actually move out, or would I return to confrontation and complications? Part of me didn't care. I'd handle whatever I found. The house was mine legally, emotionally, every way that mattered. If they hadn't left, Mark had the paperwork ready. If they had left, I'd figure out next steps. But lying there in the dark, listening to waves that had carried me through 2 weeks of healing, I felt ready. More than ready. Excited even. The old Lem would have been terrified, would have called ahead to check, to apologize, to smooth things over, would have found a way to make it his fault. The new Lem? The one who'd surfed and hiked and floated alone in the Pacific? That Lem could handle anything. An hour before the alarm, I gave up on sleep. Just lay there listening to the ocean, watching the sky lighten from black to gray to pink. One more Hawaiian sunrise. Then home. But home was different now. Home was possibility, not prison. Home was mine. The alarm went off at 4. I'd been awake for an hour already, watching dawn creep across the Pacific one last time. Shower, dress, jeans and jacket. Had to prepare for Chicago's December. The clothes felt heavy after 2 weeks in shorts. My suitcase zipped closed around Hawaiian shirts that still smelled like coconut sunscreen and possibility. Hotel checkout at 5. The front desk clerk looked half asleep, but smiled. Mahalo for staying with us. Mahalo for everything. Airport shuttle in darkness. Honolulu waking up around me. Delivery trucks. Early workers. The city's quiet hours before tourists filled the streets. At the airport, one last blast of plumeria-scented air before entering the terminal's recycled atmosphere. The flight left at 8. 9 hours later, after reading, sleeping, thinking, we descended into O'Hare. 6 p.m. Chicago time, but my body thought it was noon. Through the window, the city spread out in winter darkness. Gray, cold, familiar. Culture shock hit at baggage claim. Everyone bundled in heavy coats, moving fast, faces set in that Chicago grimace against cold. Nobody smiled. The urgency felt aggressive after Hawaii's languid pace. I took a taxi instead of Uber, wanted the anonymity, the time to think. The driver was mercifully quiet, just drove while I watched the city pass. I-90 to I-290, highway lights blurring orange in the dark. Oak Park appeared, streetlights making snow look golden. Where exactly? 3428 Oak Street. My hands started trembling. First time in days I'd felt nervous. What if they hadn't left? What if the house was trashed? What if... We turned onto my street. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield at my driveway. Empty. No cars. Relief flooded through me so strongly I almost laughed. This is it. I paid, tipped generously, feeling generous, and stood on the sidewalk with my suitcase. The house looked dark. Windows blank. Driveway empty of Vernon's old sedan. I walked to the front door, key in hand. It turned smoothly. Door opened. I reached for the light switch. The living room was empty. Her couch, gone. Her side tables, gone. The big flat-screen TV she'd insisted they needed, gone. Only my recliner remained, the one Maria had bought me for my 50th birthday, sitting alone in the middle of the empty room like an island. I walked through slowly, turning on lights. Kitchen, her table gone. My small two-person table remained against the wall. Refrigerator hummed. On its door, held by a magnet, a note. I pulled it off, read it aloud to the empty kitchen. Dad, you won. We're gone. I hope you're happy. But don't expect us to ever forgive you. You chose money over family. Fern stood there holding it, read it again, then laughed, short, bitter sound that echoed in the empty room. Money over family? I said to nobody. No, Fern, I chose myself over being used. Ripped the note in half. Dropped both pieces in the trash can. They landed with a satisfying flutter. Continued the tour. Master bedroom. My bed, my dresser, untouched. Guest room where they'd slept. Completely empty. Carpet showed rectangular marks, where furniture had pressed for years. Kids' rooms. Bare walls, empty closets. Nothing left but dust bunnies in corners. Bathroom. Their toiletries gone. My shaving kit exactly where I'd left it. I sat on the stairs between floors, taking it in. The house echoed when I moved. Bigger now, emptier. Cleaner somehow, like a weight had been lifted from the walls themselves. Stood, walked around opening windows, all of them. December cold rushed in, biting, fierce, cleansing. Let it blow through, clearing out 15 years of resentment. My phone, turned off since the plane, sat in my pocket. I took it out, powered it on for the first time in 2 weeks. Messages flooded in. 14 voicemails, 8 texts, all from Fern and Vernon. Didn't listen, didn't read. Deleted everything. Blocked both numbers. The phone went silent again. Sat in my chair, Maria's chair, and called Mark. He answered on the second ring. Lem, you're back? They're gone. Pause. How do you feel? Lighter, like I can breathe again. What's next? I looked around the empty room at the windows showing Chicago's December night, at the space that was finally, truly mine. I'm thinking, maybe sell this place, get something smaller, or spend more time in Hawaii. I don't know yet. But I have options. You deserve it, buddy. You really do. Thanks, Mark. For everything. We talked for a few more minutes. Logistics, legal questions, next steps, but mostly just friends checking in. When I hung up, the silence felt good. Peaceful. Mine. Made coffee for the first time in weeks. Stood at the kitchen window while it brewed, watching lights across Oak Park, cars passing, lives being lived, the city indifferent to my small victory. The coffee tasted like home. I took it to the living room, sat in my chair, looked at the space around me. The house was empty, but for the first time in years, it felt like mine. I walked through each room again, slower this time. No Vernon's mess. No Fern's complaints. No tension humming under every interaction. Just silence. Pulled up photos on my phone. Hawaii. Surfing wipeout. I was laughing in the shot, halfway off the board. Diamond Head summit selfie. Sweaty and grinning. Sunset from the farewell dinner. Sky impossibly red. 2 weeks. That's all it had taken to remember I was more than a bank account. More than a doormat. They thought I'd crumble. That I was too old. Too soft. Too dependent on them for purpose. They were wrong. The sunset in that photo was just the beginning. I opened Maria's photo drawer, small chest in the bedroom where I kept things I couldn't throw away. Found her picture, the one from our 40th anniversary. Her smile, captured forever at 61, before the illness took her. I did it, Maria. My voice sounded strange in the empty house. I chose myself. Finally. Set the photo down gently. Felt like she'd approve. Like maybe she'd been waiting for me to find this strength all along. 65 years old. A house in my name. A tan from Hawaii. And a plan for the rest of my life. Fern wanted me gone. She got her wish. But not the way she expected. I won. Not because I was cruel, but because I finally chose me. Chicago stretched outside my window, gray and beautiful and full of possibility. Tomorrow, I'd start planning, maybe call a realtor, maybe book another Hawaii trip, maybe both. But tonight, I just stood here and breathed. The house was empty. My life was full. Tomorrow, I'd start planning. Tonight, I just stand here and breathe. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching,